I'm here in the Yorkshire Dales to test out this, the Sigma 500mm F5.6 DG DN OS Sports for Sony E-mount and L-mount cameras. And I'm going to test it right here in the National Park, photographing red squirrels at a little reserve that I'm told almost guarantees that you'll be able to see and photograph reds. Let's find out. Hi Paul.
Hey Tim.
Good to see you.
Nice meeting you, mate. Yeah.
You too.
Yeah, I was just putting some feed out here.
Oh really? What you're putting out, is it?
Wait, I've got some peanuts.
Yeah.
Some striped sunflower seeds.
Yeah.
And some hazelnuts, which I put on separately.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically I've got some containers here.
Yeah.
So I just fill this up with seed and nuts. So when you're photographing from the hide here,
yeah,
the squirrels will sit here.
So but that's hidden.
That's hidden.
Yeah.
So you get the shots like that.
In terms of kit, like what kind of lenses do you need to shoot this kind of thing?
I normally recommend roughly 1 to 500mm.
Okay.
For this height here. Most shots around this will be about 300.
Okay. Yeah.
Where the reflection pool, ideal 70 to 200.
Right.
And the 300mm for close-ups.
Obviously, red squirrels, I can see them everywhere, and birds. What kind of birds are we looking at?
I've got great spotted woodpecker.
Oh, really?
He comes down. I bait the footpath sign there for him. And then chaffinches by the hundreds, wrens, robins, nuthatches, all sorts. There's a chaffinch there.
Well, hopefully we'll get some good shots.
So
I'm going to go and get set. I'll let you.
Yeah, just get yourself set up.
Brilliant. Cheers, Paul. Okay, so all of the little feeding stations have all got bait in now, and I can already see there's probably 10 red squirrels that I can see right now. Incredible, they're everywhere, and we even just had one come into the hide. You know, they are so tame. It was sniffing the end of the lens, unbelievable. So we'll get shooting in a minute. I'm really excited to get some shots. But first, I'm going to talk to you a bit about this new lens and what it's got to offer. So this is it. This is the Sigma 500mm F5.6 DG DN OS Sports. It is pretty small for a 500mm lens. It weighs in at about 1,370 grams. And just to give you a kind of a sense of how big it is, that's the 70-200, a relatively recent 70-200, so you can put those next to each other. And actually, in terms of weight, they are almost identical. I think there's something like 30 grams in it between the two. And then our 150-600 DG DN is quite a bit chunkier. And of course, when you go out to 500mm, quite a lot longer as well. They're probably about the same, roughly the same, probably when this is fully zoomed in. So in terms of putting it in your kit bag, they're about the same. There are loads of pro level features on this. Starting at the front here, we've got, well, in fact, let's start at the very, very front. We've got a lens hood here, which is made of a material called TSC, which is a polymer. We use this quite a lot, especially in our newer lenses. The idea of this TSC is that it's extremely strong and light. It behaves in a very similar way to aluminium in terms of its thermal expansivity. So when you use the lens in very cold or very hot environments, the aluminium interior of the lens and the TSC exterior expand and contract at the same rate. Whether you're in a boiling hot desert or a freezing cold Arctic region, it doesn't matter. The lens will perform very predictably, consistent in its optical performance wherever you are. So that's a really good material to use, and it's super light, so it keeps weight down. So the whole lens hood is made of that, apart from a rubberized sort of front ring, which means that when you put the lens down, you're not kind of damaging anything. Around the front here, we've got 3 AFL buttons, and they are kind of if you're holding it upright, that one's kind of where the thumb sits. If you're in landscape, that's where the thumb sits. And then there's one on the back, and that they are designed as sort of function buttons. So you can set that on this Sony body, for example. You can program that to one of probably 100 different functions. So if I want to set it to ISO, for example, I could do. Okay, so we've got a little bird there that's just on the end of a stick, and he keeps jumping onto the edge of the hide. Everything here just seems so tame. We've got a male pheasant there on the on one of the feeding stations, and we're not really set up to film this properly yet, so just quickly grabbing a bit of footage while we talk. So many different types of wildlife here. So moving down the lens, we have an aperture ring, and this is the first time we've had an aperture ring on a long telephoto prime like this, and it's really nice to have because it means that you can change aperture on the lens rather than on the camera, so you can do it with your left hand. And it's, as you can hear, it clicks. So if I just put you by my mic, so it clicks. Or if you want it not to click, you can declick it, and you can also lock it in place. So you can either lock it into manual aperture, or if you go around to A, that locks it into auto, so it can't be knocked out now. And then the aperture control then flicks straight to the dial as normal on the camera. Then we have a focus ring, which has a very smooth action, which is great. And then further down, we've got a load of switches, the normal focus mode switch. We've got a focus limiter switch to limit focus range. We've got an OS switch, so optical stabilization. That's got 2 modes, one for panning and one for general photography. And that has 5 stops of image stabilization, so really impressive. And then at the bottom here, we've got a custom mode switch so that you can customize your setup. A bit further down here, we've got the tripod collar, and this has an Arca Swiss shaped dovetail foot on it, so that you can just put that straight onto a tripod without the need for a plate, as provided your tripod is Arca Swiss compatible. And it's got the twist lock on it there, so that you can move that around. So I'll probably keep it in an upright position today, because I'm going to be mostly handheld shooting or shooting from a beanbag. So if it's kind of locked in that position, it just kind of gets it out of the way. Internally, we have an HLA focusing motor. That's a high response linear actuator motor. It replaces the stepping motor, and that's only been on maybe 3 lenses up until this point. So it's really new tech that we've developed, and it's very fast, very quiet, very accurate. I'd say very quiet is basically silent. You just can't hear it. And then the only other thing I think to mention internally is the weather sealing. So this has sort of rubber seals around the mount, and then around all the switches, around the focus ring, around the aperture ring, around the AFL buttons, around the front limit. So it's you know, you can use this in light rain, no problem, and you can use it in extremely cold environments, no problem. It's from our sports line, so all of our sports lenses are designed that way. And that's kind of it for the lens. The only other thing to mention is that you just get the soft case that comes with it, which has got a carry strap on it as well, so just for carrying it around nice and easily. So I'm going to put my lens hood on just to keep the drops off the end of the lens, and I think I'm going to start shooting. This lens is available in Sony E mount and L mount, and I'm shooting on a Sony today. This is the A7 IV, and this camera has animal and bird IAF. So I've turned those 2 things on, and I've got the AF turned up to max on everything. It'd be interesting to see how this lens performs with this camera, because Sony is, you know, they're very good at autofocus, especially tracking. So I want to see if it can keep up, which I'm sure it can. So I've got a squirrel over there, so I'm just going to see if I can just get. Okay, so straight away, immediately, I've got the green square over the eye. No hesitation. It's just on it, and it's tracking. Okay, he's moving now, and it's tracking. And then he's going back. He's tracking the eye. That's incredible. Like, absolutely incredible. It is pretty amazing how, can you go back 10 years or so and you didn't have anything like this. Ooh, hello. There's a bird like right in front of me. I'll tell you what, I'll put these nuts here. I'm going to see if he comes up. There we go. Here you go. Isn't that amazing? Look how tame they are. It's incredible. I'm going to do it just as an experiment. I'm going to put that on my hand, and I'm going to see if he comes and gets it out of my hand. That's funny. That's brilliant. Here we go. There's another squirrel just here. He's just gone onto the top of the log, and I think he's just going to move. And here we go. Yeah, got the eye straight away, and I've got this on continuous focusing, so it'll just keep him sharp. Oh, there's the woodpecker. He's actually not in a very good position. I can get a shot of him. just going to try and get him. He's just on the edge of a little tree stump, and that's a nice pose. Nice light on him at the moment, nice soft light. And that f5.6 is giving me like loads of background blur. One thing I've really liked about this lens so far is the optical stabilizer. So I've got it on mode 1 at the moment, which is like just the general mode. It's 5 stops. So if normally you would shoot at, let's say, a 500th of a second for something like this, then this would give you something you'd probably got to get a handheld shot at, say, 250th, 125th, a 60th, a 30th, a 15th. So it's pretty effective. I think we've got a squirrel. Okay, so we're just going to wait and see if he comes up. There you go. They are absolutely unfazed by people. They have no fear of people at all. Like when you stand up, make a noise, talk, make a sudden movement. They're just not interested, they just carry on eating. There's one just here. Paul's done an incredible job here. It's just buzzing, absolutely buzzing with wildlife. The camera guy, Chris, just described it as, it's like something out of a Disney film, you know, when you see sort of Snow White walking through some woodland or something and there's like birds landing on her head, and it is exactly like that. I don't know whether it's the environment or whether it's the light or whether it's the lens, or a combination of all three, but when you look through the viewfinder, the quality of the image, it's just absolutely magical. It just looks it's so sort of colour rich and sharp, and the bokeh is just so smooth. It really does look nice. It kind of feels like you're getting sort of winning images every time you press a shutter. It's absolutely amazing. Well, that was an absolutely awesome session. Really, really enjoyed that. But we're losing the light just a little bit, so I'm going to call it a day there. But if you ever want to try wildlife photography from a hide, this is the place to do it. It's Paul Fowlie's Red Squirrel Hides here in the Yorkshire Dales, North Yorkshire. Check them out, they're absolutely brilliant. Loads of wildlife. And what better lens to shoot it with than the Sigma 500mm F5.6 DG DN, which you can get hold of right now in the shops. So we'll see you next time, and it's goodbye from me and goodbye from him.